Welcome to Fact and Suspicion. I'm your host, Dan, here with my co-host, Ben.
Hello.
And today we're going to discuss the disappearance of Brandon Swanson.
Not to be confused with Brandon Lawson.
Right. Though, honestly, this one does have some, I would say, eerie similarities to that case.
Yeah. There's a call similar to that one, right?
Well, it's
not a 911 call, though.
It's not as interesting a call as the Brandon Lawson call, but basically what happened with Brandon Swanson is that he vanished while on the phone with his dad.
Right.
He just disappeared. And it's really intriguing. But
had he broken down as well?
No, his car was stuck.
Okay.
Wasn't broken down. But let's get into the details and get started with the story here. Now, Brandon was a 19-year-old college student at Minnesota West Community and Technical College.
Okay.
May 13th was the last day of classes at Brandon's college.
Okay.
And that night, there were going to be several parties, people celebrating graduation, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And Brandon went to a couple parties that night. The first party he went to was in Lynd, Minnesota. Now, Brandon is from Marshall, and Lynd is only about 10 minutes away from there. Okay. It's not that far. After he was at the party at Lynd for a while, he drove up to Canby, Minnesota, which is about 30 minutes from Marshall. And he went to another party there with some more of his friends. These are just friends from college, basically, you know. And Brandon, we do know that he had a drink or two at the party at Lynd. And people at the party at Canby said he only had one shot of whiskey there.
So that probably didn't have too much to do with his disappearance?
Maybe not. They say he didn't seem to be impaired. Right. So, but then again, these are probably drunk college students.
Right. I mean, when your source is a bunch of intoxicated kids, it's hard to say for sure.
Hard to say. Also, would like to note that Brandon wore glasses because he was legally blind in his left eye.
Okay.
Let's just keep that in mind.
That was exacerbated by driving at night, too.
It probably would have been, I would imagine. Now, as I said, it didn't seem to be impaired, but his friends did say he left that party in Canby around midnight. By most reports, different articles say different things, usually right around midnight.
But again, our only source for that are
drunk college kids. Okay. Yeah, exactly. He left there heading back to Marshall. That should have only been about a 30, maybe 45-minute drive going down the main highway. But Brandon did not take the main highway. Apparently he...
Was that intentional?
Took back roads. Yeah, apparently so. And I would say a lot of people say, oh, that's so strange that he didn't take the main highway, he took back roads.
Not particularly.
No, but especially if you've been drinking, right?
Yeah, of course.
Because you're worried about cops pulling you over. He's underage. He's had a DUI in the past, too.
Then it makes perfect sense that he would take back roads.
Exactly. He's going to take back roads. I mean, I live on a back road, you know, it connects two other back roads. But there's really no reason for anyone to be driving down that road.
Right.
There's like 16, 17 houses on my road. I'd say 200-300 cars a day go by my house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And these are all people probably trying to avoid the cops.
Yeah, cops are going to be where there's far more traffic.
Exactly. So it's just people doing that. And I'm sure he was trying to avoid the cops.
Strike me as strange in the slightest.
I know I've had a lot of people argue that.
We've both been there.
Yeah. Oh, no, I've avoided cops on back roads. Now, at some point on his drive home, he drove his Chevy Lumina into a ditch and couldn't get back out. We don't know why, if he like swerved to miss something, what happened, but he ended up with the car in the ditch, couldn't get back out of the ditch.
Was it badly damaged?
No. Actually, there was no damage to the car at all. It was just in a way in the ditch that the tires were off the ground, so he couldn't get any traction.
Okay, so it certainly wasn't high speed.
No. It's probably just some kind of accident. He ended up in the ditch. Couldn't get out, though. About 2 a.m., he calls his parents. Now, remember, he left at midnight. This is about 2 a.m.
And he was, what, like a half hour away?
Yeah, 30, 45 minutes away. But it would have been longer taking the back roads, obviously, but not 2 hours, I don't think. Now, he calls his parents about 2 a.m. And he tells them that he's near Lynd again.
Okay.
Which is a bit out of the way to get home. It's out of the way to go through Lynd to get back to Marshall. Like Canby is north of Marshall, northwest. Lynd is southwest of Marshall.
But he had just been there before going to the second party, right?
Yeah.
Was he going back to see someone?
I think he was just on his way home. We don't know for sure.
Okay.
Right. But it's likely he was just on his way home. But he said he was in Lynd. Okay. Now, he tells his parents where he is, or where he thinks he is, and tells them to drive out there. And they do. They're on the phone with him. They drive out there, but they can't find him. They start flashing their headlights. Like, he flashes his headlights from the ditch, and they're flashing their headlights driving down the road. Yeah, trying to see if they can see each other.
Right.
But they never can. And Brandon ends up getting very frustrated that, he's telling him where he's at, but they can't find him. So he says, okay, I can see the town lights of Lynd up ahead. So he says he's going to get out and walk to Lynd and go to the parking lot of this bar in Lynd, and they'll just pick him up from the parking lot. I said, okay. So he's on the phone with him walking, and he decides to kind of go off the road, thinking it'd be a little quicker if he can cut through a field a bit. I don't really know how far he was from the road.
So, curiosity, do we know if the lights he saw really were Lynd? Or was
they weren't, okay, and we'll get to that in a minute.
He was further away.
Yeah, he was further away than he thought he was.
Okay.
So, at any rate, he's walking toward he thinks the town, and he's on the phone with his dad at the time, and he tells his dad that he says he can hear water close by. And just a few minutes later, he says, "Oh shit," and the phone goes dead. And Brandon was never heard from again.
Have they found his body?
No. Now that was, I think they were on the phone for about 45 minutes. So let's say 2:30, 2:45 when he goes missing. His parents drove around looking for him for a while, and they contacted police at 6 a.m.
Okay.
Now
that makes sense because they probably they were on the phone with him.
Yeah, right? They don't think
they
anything's
just
wrong.
They're in the wrong place. They have no reason.
Yeah,
to
they were going to they're going to go wait for him at the bar in the parking lot. Drive around. They never did find him.
Right.
So at 6 a.m. they contact the police. Now at the time, the police they're saying, it has been 24 hours. We don't really need to do a missing persons. He hasn't been gone that long. But they said, listen, we were on the phone with him. We heard him say, "Oh shit, we think something's wrong."
Yeah.
You should go find. So they finally talked the police into looking into this, and it takes a little while, but there's some pushback. But they do look into it, right? And the police do a decent investigation at the time. It's not like once they start investigating, they don't hold back or anything, right? They get a hold of the cell phone records, and when they start looking at the pings from his phone, they realize he was nowhere near Lynd.
Like, how far are we talking?
We're talking still. He was in a town or near a town called Porter, Minnesota, which is northwest of Marshall. It's a good ways, probably like 30 minutes away from Lynd.
Is that in the, you said northwest. Well, what direction was he supposed to be going, or did he think he was going?
Okay, so let's say he was far northwest it can be.
Okay.
Right? And Marshall's where he's going right here. Okay? Now, Lynd would be down here.
All right.
Okay? And Porter would be like up here. So nowhere near where he thought he was.
Do we have any idea of where he took a wrong turn or what? Or do we think he took a wrong turn?
Well, I would assume he did end up taking a wrong turn.
Because why have that conversation with your parents?
Yeah, he really thought he was near Lynd.
Yeah, that seems to be the
case. And that doesn't, just to clarify, I don't think you need to be drunk to get disoriented driving around at night and think you're in the wrong place. Not. Like, okay, so I was at a high school football game a few years ago, 5 minutes from my house. All right. And it's dark when you get out. I took a turn on the wrong road, and within a couple minutes, I had no clue where I was.
Oh, I've been there, man.
Yeah. I mean, granted, you can just keep driving down these roads; they're going to come out on a main road somewhere, right? So it's not a big deal. But like I said, I was 5 minutes from my house, and I had no clue what road I was on. I made a wrong turn. It's dark. He's on these back road, rural roads. It's not very well lit.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't necessarily know who you are. I'm sure he thought he was near Lynd. He'd probably been out, turned around for a while. That's why it took him so long to get home.
No, I've been there. I mean, I got lost in Atlanta one time. Had no clue where I was. And that's not even an area I was familiar with. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. So it's not that hard to believe that would happen.
No.
Right?
No.
But yeah, they find his car up near Porter. And they said his car's not damaged. There's no signs of foul play near the car. There's no blood, no signs he would have been injured. Doesn't seem like it was a high-speed accident.
So if foul play took place, it would have been after he left the vehicle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did they suspect that there might have been foul play after
Some people think there was. That's not the working police theory, which we'll
Probably
get into in a little bit. Yeah, and we'll get into what the police think in a little bit. But
did they find that he said he could hear water? Was he correct about that?
Very likely, very likely. So here's what would happen. They're searching this area and they bring in scent dogs. Now, if you read different articles, I hear that it's scent dogs that pick this up and tracked him, or it's cadaver dogs that hit on this river, the Yellow Medicine River, which was not too far from where his car was.
Articles report different things.
Yeah. They say some say cadaver dogs, some say it's just bloodhounds scenting him.
I think a lot of journalists, I see that mistake quite a bit. I think a lot of journalists don't realize there's a distinction.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, if it was a cadaver dog, I don't think it would have been tracking him. The cadaver dogs are meant to hit on where the a dead body is.
Yeah. Surely they hadn't already.
Yeah. There's not going to be a dead body. Yeah. Well, there's not going to be a dead body near the car.
Or that's decomposed enough by this
exactly.
point.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
I'm thinking maybe the bloodhounds tracked him from the car.
That makes more
up there,
sense.
and then maybe the cadaver dogs hit around that.
Okay.
But I mean, it's hard to say. And what I want to add to this is I read a very interesting article about how scent dogs work in regards to this case. Now, a man named Ken Anderson was interviewed by. Give me 1 second. Damn it. I lost my place. Sorry.
That was going so well, too.
I can retract just a little bit. Maybe I should start bringing my mouse because I hit this damn trackpad sometimes.
I've been there.
And it's motherfucker. There's okay.
Where should we start back at?
I'll go back to talk about the article I read.
Okay.
You're good there.
Is there a good cut there though? Or did you go from
we can go back a little ways farther. How about we just go back to where I'll talk about the car's not damaged and no signs of foul play, and you can ask me again if they thought there might be foul play. We'll just go from there.
You know what I could do. Since you've already done the lead into the article.
Yeah.
Well, no, because you couldn't remember the guy's name or the article thing, so we need to go back a little further than that shit. Well, what was your suggestion?
I'll just go back to where we were talking about where they found the car. It's only a couple minutes.
Okay.
And you guys said there. I said there's it wasn't damaged. You guys said there sounds foul play. I think I said there were no signs of foul play, and you asked if they suspected foul play.
It was like what I said was something like, so if there was foul play, it took place after he left.
Right after that's where I was talking about they brought in the dogs. We could just start there.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
So they brought in dogs, and this is where the articles I read get sort of confused because some people are saying that it was cadaver dogs, and some people say it was just bloodhounds that were tracking him.
Since we've been looking into these cases, I have seen that mistake quite a bit in articles.
Yeah.
I think a lot of journalists don't understand there's a distinction between those two things.
Exactly. Well, they're saying that the dogs led them to the Yellow Medicine River, which would make sense with,
that had to have been a bloodhound, though, or something like that,
I think so.
A tracking dog?
I think so, right? Because there's no way a cadaver dog would track someone from their car.
Right, and there shouldn't have been any cadaver at the car anyways, even if there had been enough time for decomposition. I'm
assuming the bloodhounds tracked him from his car to the river we're talking about.
That makes more
sense. Maybe a cadaver dog hit around the river, maybe not. Maybe that was just, maybe they had cadaver dogs on scene. They just got, the article was confused about, what happened. At any rate, though, to the Yellow Medicine River, not too far from where his car was. And
how far of a walk would that have been?
I'm really not sure, depending on how long he'd been walking.
But maybe, no more than a couple miles?
No, not far at all.
Okay.
Not that far at all. Now, the problem with this, though, is, and I wasn't familiar with this, but I had read this article dealing with this case about how these scent dogs work.
Right.
And a man named Ken Anderson, who is in charge of emergency support services, that was who was heading up the search for Brandon. He said that these scent dogs are not meant to be used in an area where winds exceed 8 miles an hour.
I've looked at a lot of research on police dogs or cadaver dogs and such, and I've never heard that before. Have you seen that corroborated anywhere?
No, but I mean, it sort of makes sense because, I mean, not many places do you have winds that get over 8 miles an hour. But in rural Minnesota, they do.
I guess that's true, yeah. It's probably just not an issue that comes up in most places, yeah.
And like around here, it gets really windy too, so I don't know how that works around here. But he said that the dogs are not that accurate when winds pick up that much. Plus, the winds are changing constantly, blowing this way, then that way.
That can make sense, yeah.
Yeah, so any scent could be blown away. Any material that, genetic material may have been, come off of them, may have been blown in a distance, Or
it could have been blown towards them, right?
Right, exactly. So it's really hard to say how accurate that was. Matter of fact, Ken Anderson said that This is over 100 square mile area.
But wouldn't the same go for the tracking dog as well then? Or is that different?
Well, that's what we're talking about, the tracking dog.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the cadaver.
No, I'm talking about the tracking dogs.
Okay.
So the tracking, we don't know how accurate these tracking dogs would have been when they actually, where they found him go to that river.
Most of the research I did was specifically on cadaver dogs.
I'm not really sure that cadaver dogs even really did anything at this point. So, but like I said, we don't know how accurate where those dogs went was. He could have been some other area. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's unlikely he went into the river right there, but they searched the river very, very well. They searched like 100 square mile area because that's what Ken Anderson said with the winds. You know, it could have been anywhere in that area.
I mean, just intuitively, there was a body of water nearby and he could hear it.
Yeah.
And then suddenly the phone goes dead.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, intuitively, that seems like he probably fell in the water. Now, it could have been anything, of course, but I can see why investigators would think that.
Yeah. But let's talk about that, though. Now, like I said, they searched the river very well. They couldn't find anything. And also, from most reports, this river's not very deep right there. It's more like a creek.
So you could drown in it, but it'd be very hard to like disappear in it.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you could drown in it if he hit his head and got knocked out or something.
Right, yeah.
But otherwise, we kind of doubt that. And when you add up the fact that we don't know exactly where he went into the river, they search a huge area because of that.
Mm-hmm.
They can't find him anywhere in that river, anywhere in the bodies of water nearby. They probably don't think he drowned. They really don't think he did.
Oh, so that's not even the working police theory right now.
No, actually, the working police theory is that he fell into the river there.
Okay.
Maybe it ruined his cell phone. Couldn't call back after that.
Makes sense.
He climbs back out of the river and keeps on walking. But that night it got down around 40 degrees.
Oh.
So they think exposure may have killed him somewhere.
It certainly could be a possibility.
Yeah, that's the working police theory.
So would they be saying that when he yelled "oh shit" that was him falling then?
Probably sliding into the river. Yeah. Yeah. His dad also said he heard something sound like slipping.
Oh.
When he said "oh shit." But it's hard to say what that was. Like if he had dropped the phone, it could have sounded like that. You know, it's really
it is very difficult to say
what that would have been. So yeah, we don't know.
But it's certainly plausible.
It's certainly plausible. Yeah. But that's basically it. And they've never found him. They didn't find any traces of him near the river. They didn't find any blood, no pieces of his clothing, nothing like that. No signs of foul play anywhere. And he just sort of vanished. So even if he had climbed back out and kept walking and succumbed to the elements, you would think they would find his body eventually.
Yeah, you'd think so.
But nothing has ever been found.
Of course, you'd think that about Brandon Lawson too.
Well, they did find his body. Well,
are we sure though?
Do
we know that for sure yet? I thought there was still testing being done.
I'm pretty sure that his wife confirmed that it was him.
That tweet that the family said they believed it was him, but they still had testing to be done. I'm not sure if that testing's come back
well, maybe not. But they seem to have found Brandon Lawson at any rate.
I certainly hope so. God, I hope so.
But Brandon Swanson, they still have not found. There are a lot of other theories online. I mean, there are some theories of people like abducted by aliens. That's why he wasn't where he thought he was. And obviously, I'm not saying that I don't think alien abductions have ever happened, but I've never seen any real evidence of it. So
sadly, that doesn't surprise me at all, given the circumstances. That does kind of seem like a lot of the alien conspiracy theories that you hear, like the circumstances there. Yeah.
Also, I mean, I don't think he'd be on the phone and say, "Oh shit," when an
alien drops by.
Doesn't make sense. At any rate, you've got that. Some people think that he met with foul play, that he may have been killed, but. Again, don't you think they would have found some sign of foul play at this car?
I think the water makes a lot more sense in this aspect, because it seems like if he had been attacked, he might have dropped the phone, but why would it have cut out?
Yeah, exactly.
Falling in the water would have destroyed the electronics.
Yeah. Yeah, and this was not like a smartphone either. This is one of those...
Just a flip phone.
Right? Well, I don't think it was a flip. It was a Motorola SLVR, which is one of those, I think, like a stick phone. It's like a Nokia.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't think just dropping that would really turn it off. Like, you had to... If I remember correctly, the Nokia I had, you really had to kind of push on the button to get it to hang up.
Yeah. So that was one of my first phones, that Nokia like that.
No, this was great. This was a Motorola, not a Nokia, but that type of phone, right? So, some people think maybe he was wandering across someone's property and they saw him as nearly 3 a.m. They shot him.
But it seems like they probably found the body at some point.
Probably would have found the body. And, if he was trespassing, they got scared, I don't know if they would have covered it up. They could have said, hey, this guy was walking.
Do a lot of the theories exaggerate how drunk he was?
Yeah.
That's my experience. Anytime somebody has been drinking at all.
Yeah. Some of them really lean into the fact that, he was drunk and didn't know where he was going. But
people seem to think that once if you've had anything to drink, that just anything can happen.
Yeah, and he went into
that explains
his car
everything.
Went into the ditch. But I mean, if you're driving down a road you don't know,
he could have
it's
been
late at night.
Given the fact there was no damage to the car, he could have been trying to turn around for all we know.
Yeah, exactly. He really could have been trying to turn around and not realize how deep the ditch was. Right. He slid off into it.
I have done that very thing
because there was no damage to the car.
Right.
Like if you were going fast and went up into a ditch, there'd be damage to that car.
That seems far more consistent with trying to turn around or
let's say
or maybe even just park.
Let's say he was kind of lost. Maybe he thought he needed to turn around and go back the other way. Does that not make sense?
Or maybe he was already on the phone with his parents at this point, and he thought just stopping would be the best bet.
Well, no, he didn't call his parents until
after he was stuck. That's right.
Didn't call his parents until after he was stuck. So, yeah, a lot of the stuff doesn't add up. There was another interesting theory that I heard, which I don't really put a lot of stock in this one either, was that maybe someone had a farmer put some traps on their land. Mm-hmm. You do have up there, you've got bear, you got mountain lions, stuff like that. So people might be trying to trap something like that on their land, and he may have fallen in one of those traps. Then when they found him, they just disposed of the body.
I don't suppose there's any evidence.
No evidence whatsoever of it. No, there's no evidence for any of this other than the fact that they did track him going into the river right there. So to be honest, I think maybe he hit his head and drowned, or more likely, I think the exposure theory is a pretty good one.
Well, I think the fact that his phone didn't just drop, that it cut out completely,
right,
tells you it probably wasn't a surprise attack. Because, like I said, if he'd been a jump from behind, I don't see how the phone would have shut off.
Exactly. Also,
the water seems to explain that part of it better than anything else.
Also, his phone wasn't found anywhere, right?
I should have asked about that.
If he was attacked and dropped his phone, that phone may have been found at some point, right? But no, he probably dropped the phone in the water, stuck it back in his pocket, kept going, and the phone was wherever the body is, right? But like I said, we have no clue how far he could have made it. And
I'm assuming they searched that entire
quite well. It was just that when you get in such a large area, when you look at the fact that they don't even know for sure where he could have gone into the river.
Right.
I mean, how far could he have gotten after that when he came back out? Which way did he go? How big of a distance is this?
I mean, I guess the search radius would have to be pretty big.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, they were searching 100 square miles.
And was this densely wooded area, a lot of it?
There was wooded area, there were fields. It was kind of a mixture. It was a rural area. Okay. So there's a lot of different stuff there. I mean, in some places there may be trees, but there's high grass, stuff like that, just brush, stuff like that. There's a lot of places to lose someone.
Yeah.
And he could have been so cold he tried to hunker down somewhere, which would have been sort of hiding. I'm not saying that cave, but if there was a cave around there, or up in some brush or something that keep him warm, right. Which would have hidden him more.
Yeah.
This one, it's a big mystery, and it's crazy how he disappeared, but I don't think this is not one of those that I don't feel like there's any foul play in this. I'm not going to subscribe to any of those. I think the police actually have a good idea of what happened to this one. And with those dogs tracking him going into the river, the fact that he heard water,
right?
It goes
that
together.
Does seem to add up, yeah.
But again, I don't want to a lot of people, especially Brandon Lawson, say, "Oh, he got high and got lost out there." This kid. He was a 19-year-old kid. He may have had a few drinks, but everyone said he did not seem inebriated. He did not seem like he couldn't handle himself. His parents, who'd been on the phone with him for nearly an hour, said he seemed just fine. He did not seem incapacitated.
Though, to be fair, with Brendan Lawson, he did seem to be genuinely.
Yeah. No, he did. I just don't like to hear people talk about how drunk this kid probably was. Right, just wandered off, because I don't think that's what happened. I think. And honestly, after it'd been that long since his last, if he left at midnight, this was 2 a.m., right? Yeah. If he hadn't had that many drinks, he had plenty of time to sober up.
Of course.
So I think he's just fine. Some people say, oh, maybe he hit his head when he wrecked his car, but the car wasn't damaged at all. You know what I mean? So what are the odds he's going to hit his head going off into a ditch where he wasn't even going fast enough to dent the car?
And if he did hit his head, how hard could it have been?
Exactly. Yeah. And he told his parents he wasn't hurt. You think he would have told them?
That's right, because he had a conversation with his parents right after. Yeah.
You think he would have told them? So this stuff just doesn't hold water to me. I think he was just trying to walk home. He probably was disoriented about where he was lost.
But I think it's pretty obvious he was disoriented.
Yeah, obviously. And, walked off into some water he didn't realize was there. And like, again, that may not have even killed him. That probably didn't kill him. He maybe walked off and after that. And
obviously it's weird that they never found the body, but I mean, I guess animals partially could account for that, right?
Yeah, and again, sometimes it's hard to find a body in those big areas like that. And if you got animals, it's hard to say. It's really hard to say. I'm hoping one day they can find something to close this out, because his parents have spent years trying to get some kind of closure on this.
It's heartbreaking. I guess it's still open then.
Yeah. And another thing is these are parents. Both of them drove out to get him. Like, these parents seem to be pretty close to their kid.
Yeah.
It's not like just one of them drove out, like, I'm going to stay asleep, you go.
Right.
They both came to get him. Like they seem genuinely to care about their son. It seemed like a close family. It's just really sad. But anyway, that is the case. And again, it's a mystery, but I don't think it's as mysterious as Brandon Lawson was.
No.
Or some of the others we've.
I mean, I think listening to this story, obviously we can't know for certain, but I think there's a decent idea of what probably happened to him. At least there's a plausible theory. With Brandon Lawson, who knows what happened to that dude?
There's no
it may very well have been aliens.
Yeah, it could have been. Like that may have been. He may have been seeing aliens when he was on the phone about going toward Abilene.
I'd explain some of the shit he was saying.
Possibly. At any rate, though, we hope you have enjoyed this episode. If you do like our podcast, please like and subscribe.
Tell people.
We love it when you tell people about us. Leave us a comment if you're on YouTube. Any way to interact with any of our content, we love that.
But most importantly, the best thing you can do to help us, if you want to support us, is tell a friend.
Yeah. We appreciate it. We will see you next time.
Thanks a lot.